All right, guys. Hey, Melissa. We got two Melissas on there. Hi, Amy. See you on Zoom. Hi. Let's see, Ashley, you'll watch the chat.
Yep.
Okay. Perfect. Hey, welcome, guys. I commend everybody for being here because you carved out part of your day for personal development. It's so important. And I wanted to mention something. Lynn and I kind of exchanged things on personal development time again. She'll send me little clips. I'm down in the gym working out. Well, I'm in the basement. She's at Hogwarts or Orange Theory or something. Inevitably, every morning you get something she's listening to. So this morning she sent me something from Mind Valley Talks. Anybody follow or been on Mind Valley Talks on YouTube? Their page says that they're bringing you the best personal growth video content and the most brilliant minds on the planet. All committed to helping you live the healthiest, happiest, most fulfilling life possible. And the reason I bring that up is because he shared an acronym. I like acronyms to help you remember things. The acronym is ROSE, ROSE, and it's the rate of self-evolution. And he was talking about you got daily self-development, weekly, monthly. How often are you concentrating on your self-development, right? So you should be 20-30 minutes a day, easy, right? Whether it's drive time, workout time, listening to that. But he made a comment about that rate of self-evolution on trying to increase that. And he said, you should try and increase it to a rate that if you have a friend that hasn't kept in touch with you for a month, they have to get to know you again. Think about that for a minute. It's like growth mindset, growth activities, development, self-development rolls into business development, right? And you want to increase that rate. But it just made me think of almost 20 years ago when I had an investor club. We were doing a workshop. You remember? Yeah, at that time. That's actually how we met, as investing. But I had a guy come to one of our workshops, and I was excited to announce that Lynn and I had just hit the 50 property mark in our portfolio. And afterwards, he comes up to me and says, "Dude, last time we talked, you said 40 properties." And I said, "We haven't talked in 2 months." And so that kind of just reminded me of that because of what this guy said on that talk. It was pretty exciting. So think about that. Some people say, "Oh, I don't got time for these classes. I don't have time for trainings and stuff." I mean, you really don't have time not to. I mean, it's our responsibility to increase our skill and our craft, to be better at our craft. Sorry, it's a personal joke. So I just want to bring that up before I introduce Ben. So I met Ben through Louis Hamner. How many people have been to Louis Hamner's critical? He calls his critical or difficult conversations, right? So hi. So he told me that, well, Ben's the one I learned it from. And so I was like, well, why didn't we start with Ben? and I wanted to read something from remember the group text when he introduced us. He said, "Ben, I told Jeff what takes me 10 minutes to say, you can say in 3 minutes without loss of message." So listen how cool that is. You're going to get, Louis not here, so you're going to get 3 hours worth of content in 1 hour. And so, but you only get 1 hour of seed credit. Sorry, we can't accelerate that. But isn't that interesting, right? So I'm excited to have you, Ben. You can see up here, Ben's with Direct Rate. We were just chatting before we got started here on the reason he's there. I'll let him introduce himself, but he's basically there because it's a place where you can better service clients. And that resonates with all of us, right? We want to have options and we want to have solutions for our clients. And if you're pigeonholed somewhere where you just don't have the right tools to help them, then that can be frustrating. So I'm going to have Ben come up here and introduce yourself and kind of what we're going to be talking about, and we'll go into it. We're passing around a sheet here for you here in person for the CE credits. Will you put his email in the chat?
Yes.
What I'll have you guys do that are local to Utah is put your brokerage, your name, brokerage, and email in the chat. That'll help Ben out if you're interested or need CE credit.
Actually, just name and NMLS.
Name and realtor number, license number. Okay, name and license number. That's right. Okay, so I'm going to share the screen while you come up here. You're going to have a little clicker here. If I do this right, it'll work. and let's get going. Thanks,
Okay,
man.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I got it automatic.
Okay. My head doesn't quite fit in this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Watch this.
perfect.
There we go. There
Thanks.
it is.
Yeah, it's good to be here. My name is Ben Lungren, like Jeff said. I've been a loan officer now for 3 years. I started off in retail with Citywide. Good place for me to start, lots and lots of help. And then the market changed and the rates went up and price was even more important than it had ever been. From an integrity, thank you. From an integrity standpoint, it was hard for me to work there. Just to be able to say that I'm helping you and doing all that I can for you, knowing that there's other products that were out there that were probably better for people. And so my branch manager had a dream to own his own mortgage company. So he got all his ducks in a row and came to all of us and said, this is what I'm going to do. Love to have all of you come. And so I did my own research and stayed, and direct rate home loans. We've been around now since just October of last year. But just today we signed up with our 21st lender. And so we have options galore. Our rates have never been lower. Our fees have never been lower. It just is so fun helping clients, knowing that I'm actually helping them the best way that they could possibly get. So anyways, I appreciate being there. Before mortgages, I worked for a company in Provo called Vital Smarts. We did training and consulting. We sold to Fortune 500 companies in healthcare and education and private businesses. And that's what I did. My territory was the Midwest. I worked with GE at one point, the 3rd largest company in the world. I think if they were a country, they'd be the 10th largest country financially. Anyways, it was really great experiences. We sold this to companies to help them get better results through more effective communication, staying in dialogue as opposed to not speaking about the issue. Getting everybody in the room to participate instead of just the 3 people that always speak the loudest and the longest. And what I loved about it was we would certify people to train their own classes, or we would send people out. I was just a sales guy, but I would always follow up and see how it was going. And every time I called somebody to ask how it was going, they would tell me that somebody had come into their office and told them that they had a conversation with a spouse that was previously undiscussable for 5 years. Or they spoke to their teenager and neither one of them slammed a door or raised their voice. And then they would always finish with, oh yeah, and it works good in the office too. And I just love that. Like, I just love that where it matters most was where this was really benefiting people. And so as you see this today, I hope that you'll find obviously business applications, but those things in your personal life that matter most. I hope that this will make those things better. So I call this Unstuck. I'm not the creator of this content. There's 4 authors that wrote the book, Crucial Conversations. Joseph Graney being one of them, Al Switzler, Ron McMillan, and Carrie Patterson. So I'll quote them several times as we kind of go through this. But the idea is that if you don't talk it out, you will act it out. Okay. Let's see, I got to learn how to use this quicker. There we go. So there's 3 different parts that I'm going to go through, and I'm just going to kind of go through them. If you have questions, go ahead and ask. But at the end of each part, I'll just pause and make sure that everybody's caught up and see if there's any questions. But we're going to talk about recognizing a crucial conversation, formulating what it is we want to say or how we're going to say it before we actually speak. So I'm probably going to talk for like 40 minutes before we ever get to the part where we actually talk to people. Okay? So it starts like this. The reason others get defensive with us is not because we lack the right skills, but because we have the wrong motives. So change what you want and you will change how you act. Right? By definition, a crucial conversation have these 3 things: high stakes, strong emotions, and opposing opinions. Okay, there's one of our trainers that used to make everybody go high stakes, strong emotions, opposing opinions. That's how you put your name. Okay, but when any 1, 2, or all 3 of these are present, this is a crucial conversation. Okay, anybody have a high stakes conversation in your business life? Or strong emotions in your personal life?
Single one.
So you can relate with this. I guess what I'm trying to say. Okay. So I want to know, just curiosity, anybody facing a crucial conversation right now that's either not going well or that you're avoiding? And if it's okay with you, I would like to use it kind of as an example as we go through this. If you want to share, would you like to share? I saw you raise your hand, but
Sure.
okay. Is it about Jake?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can mediate if we need to.
No, my kid,
Okay.
he's lost direction,
Okay.
so we are We're having a really hard time with him at the moment.
Okay, thank you for sharing.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I'll throw in some kids stuff. I have kids too. I have 5, my oldest is 24, we have twins that are 22 and a 19-year-old and a 15-year-old at home, so I'll throw in some adult kid and regular kids. Anybody else? If not, that's totally fine.
We'll pick on me.
I'll give you another one.
Yeah.
So I've got a contractor. Sorry. Like, I'm trying to keep the peace
Okay,
because 90% of the time when he's supposed to be there to show up, he doesn't. And he doesn't reach out to me. I'm always catching up and, hey, you were gonna be here yesterday, I'm gonna be there in the morning, then you just always kicking the can down the road.
right.
And I want to get this project done. It's been a long time. So anyway, I don't know how to actually approach that without
Okay.
being the big asshole that I sometimes.
Awesome. Got it, totally got it. I have a buddy who's he's a construction guy and he anyways came to my house to do some yard work, right? Some landscaping stuff at one time. I'm like, well, why don't you ever show up on time? And he said, don't tell me when to start, tell me when to finish. So you don't need that help, but it reminds me of JP. Good dude.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's go into this, and I'll remember those, we'll use those as we kind of go along. So we talked about a crucial conversation, high stakes, strong emotions, and opposing opinion. Okay, so we're going to spend some time talking about safety. So safety is the key to all of this. This is what we need to watch for. When a conversation becomes crucial, everyone has a natural tendency to become either silent or violent with their dialogue. Okay, this is not physical, this is with dialogue. So what silence looks like is withdrawal, withholding, avoiding the conversation, masking our emotions. Okay, you might recognize it as yeah, okay. Masking, avoiding, withholding information. Violence in dialogue looks like control and attack and label. Okay. When someone moves towards either one of these, it just means they're not safe. Okay, so just out of curiosity, who are my silent people? Okay, who are my violent? Okay, who goes from one to the other?
Yeah, but.
Okay, so what I want to point out, like the takeaway that I would love for you to get from this, and let me just preface this first. So this is actually a 2-day training that I'm going to share with you in 1 hour. Okay, so it's better than 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's actually. Wow. 16 hours. Louis, he's. No, but my point is that I don't want you to get overwhelmed. I would love for you to walk away from this with a principle or 2 that you love and a skill or 2 that you could add right away. One of the things I've noticed in this general space coming from training and consulting for 13 years is that most of what I have heard in my 3-year history being in mortgages is a lot of principle-based stuff. And not very many people can take a principle and put it into action. So I'm going to show you a principle and a skill or 2 or 3, and a principle or skill or 2 or 3. Okay. So the principle that I would love for you to take from this is the fact that silence and violence, one is not better or worse than the other. Okay, they both mean somebody doesn't feel safe. That's it. Okay, when your daughter doesn't talk to you and then screams and raises her voice, it just means she's not safe. Right? When somebody raises their voice and yells and calls you names, it just means they're not safe. Okay, that's the big takeaway from this. You can tell when safety has been violated or when it's been lost, when somebody moves to silence or violence. Okay, or when you say, I would like to talk to you, contractor, about this thing, and they go, they just don't feel safe. That's it. Okay, does that make sense? Follow me? So next part here, we've got this crucial conversation, silence, violence. So we're going to talk about where to start. So the first place that we need to do in recognition is put our heart in the right place and ask ourselves a question. Okay. I'm not going to go into the big science behind the amygdala part of our brain. Everybody knows when the amygdala is activated, it fires adrenaline. Adrenaline rushes to our arms and our legs. Okay, that's great for saber-toothed tigers, but not for conversations with builders and teenagers. Okay, so the same way that when we want to use our muscles, we pick up something heavy and we do something with them when we get the blood flowing there. When we need to use our brain, we need to ask our brain a question that gets the blood flowing back into our brain. The question that we ask is, what do I really want? Okay, what do I really want? And am I behaving the way that I would if I really wanted this? Okay, does that make sense? So what I really want is this, and am I behaving like that's actually what I want? What do I want for myself, for others, for the relationship, for the organization? And if I ask myself that question, then I can look at my behavior and see if I'm actually behaving the way I would if I actually wanted this. And if I'm not, I need to change my behavior or recognize that what I really want is not that thing that I've been telling myself. Okay, so we start with heart. With me? Okay, any questions about this part? Any questions at all about recognize? So we're recognizing a conversation is crucial by watching for silence or violence to appear, and that tells us what?
They're not safe.
They're just not safe.
They don't feel safe.
They just don't feel safe. Okay, and then we start with what do I really want for myself, for them, for others, for our relationship, right? Do I really want to fix this relationship with this builder, or am I just ready to fire this builder? Does that make sense? Like it helps us know if we're asking the right questions. Okay, I'm not suggesting you do that. I'm just throwing out examples. Okay. Any questions, comments? We good online? We're good.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about formulate. The limiting factor of all communication is not the riskiness of the message that you want to share, but how safe you can help others feel hearing the message. Okay, that's the goal. You can talk to almost anyone about almost anything if you make them feel safe enough. Okay, I said almost because reasonable, rational, those have to also come in. Okay. So we can talk to almost anyone about almost anything. That's the big bold claim behind crucial conversations. So safety, if that is so important, we definitely need to understand what safety is. So safety is made up of these two things. The first is mutual purpose. So if you like acronyms, you're going to love everything I have to say. So mutual purpose is CRIB, commit, recognize, invent, and brainstorm. So when we're trying to establish or restore or create mutual purpose, we need to commit to search for a goal that will benefit both of you. So if safety has been violated, maybe the goal has changed. We need to create a new goal that works for both of us. If safety has been violated and we're working on, we recognize mutual purpose is lost, recognize the difference between what you want and what you're asking for. I just taught this class on Saturday to 400 single adults in Provo, and it was all singles. And so they wanted to talk about dating for 2 hours. I did this class twice. And so one of the things I asked them was, if you ask somebody out on a date, dinner and a movie, and they say no, they would rather go on a hike, and you say, no, I don't want to go on a hike. I want to go to dinner and a movie. Maybe the thing that you want is not to be with them. Right? Maybe the thing you want is to go to dinner and a movie and not to be with this person. Because if you wanted to be with this person, you would go on a hike. Okay. My wife loves yard work and I love my wife. So we do yard work. Does that make sense? You understand what I'm saying? So recognizing the difference between what you want and what you're asking for. What I really want is just to be with her. Okay, we go to dinner and a movie every once in a while, but most of the time on the weekends we do yard work and it's great. It's totally great. I don't care. Does that make sense? So invent a different or a higher, more encompassing goal. So maybe you've been with this builder for this long, and maybe it's time to take the goal to something higher, or maybe the project and the scope or the size of the team or the project has changed. And so we need to make it bigger and more encompassing of whatever has been added since we originally created a relationship. Brainstorm new and mutually satisfactory strategies. Sometimes you have to brainstorm. Okay, sometimes we have to say something crazy to get ourselves out of the box, not because we actually want to do this, but we have to move here. But to get out of the box, we got to brainstorm something crazy and then bring it back to something we can actually do. Okay, but brainstorm. Mutual purpose. Okay, so when safety is violated, it could be mutual purpose or it could be mutual respect. Okay, respect is less obvious to talk about, but it's like air. You don't notice it until it's gone, and then it's all you notice. Okay, so respect is that crucial. Watch for the signs that respect is no longer present by somebody defending their dignity. Okay, maybe when you go talk to your teenage son about the life challenges that you're facing with him or her, maybe they start defending what it is they're all about, and you just don't understand me. They have to defend their dignity because respect has been lost. Maybe it becomes highly charged and it's just unnecessary, right? I would really like to talk to you about your most recent behavior, and oh my God, that just doesn't make sense for the tone, okay? Respect has been lost. Or watch for someone's fear that turns to anger. Okay, I'm really scared about making these changes in this project. I don't really want to make these changes. Don't talk to me about this. And all of a sudden, fear turns to anger. Okay, I'm nervous about buying this house. It's right on the edge of my budget. Right. And then something changes, and all of a sudden, they're just mad at you. Okay, they're angry. Everybody's had this experience, hopefully not, but if you haven't, it's just respect. We just need to restore respect. You care about them, so share your good intention. So I had some borrowers that I've been working with for a long time. I was going to go out of town, and so I told them I'm going to the Sawtooth Mountains of Idaho to girls' camp where there will be no cell service. I was actually teaching this to about 90 girls. And I said, I will literally not be available for this time frame. Okay, so if you need me, hopefully it won't be between this time frame, but I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. Well, of course, as you're driving through the mountains, you catch cell service every once in a while. And of course, they needed to while I was in the mountains. So I drove to the very top of the mountain 3 times that day to talk to these people to help them through their situation. And then 2 months later, I was going to a conference in Dallas, our once a year, 1-day conference that I pay $1,000 for, that I want to go to for the day. And they needed me. Okay. And I didn't answer because it was going to be over in an hour. So I just waited 1 hour. And while I waited 1 hour, the realtor texted me, they're so mad, you're not available. Okay. What happened was they had a previous terrible experience years earlier with a lender, and they were feeling all that PTSD. Okay. So I had to talk them down off the ledge by reminding them, this is not who I am. This is just today. This is just for an hour. Remember girls' camp when I sat on the top of the mountain 3 different times and I called you, and all the other times we did Zoom calls at 9 p.m. at night because that was the only. I had to remind them of my good intentions. And that conversation ended with, you're right, Ben, can we just take you to lunch? I think we just need to spend more face-to-face time with you. And I said, I like Cafe Rio. Okay, but this is the continuance condition of dialogue. Okay, mutual respect is the continuance condition. Okay? In order to continue to stay in dialogue, respect has to be present. In our culture, generally speaking, respect is just given, and then we take it away. Okay, generally speaking. But however it is, we have to constantly be earning respect. Everybody knows that it's given in drops and taken away in buckets, right? Okay, so here's a graph of the same thing with a couple of skills. So mutual respect, mutual purpose. If there is a clear problem, we can crib for purpose, right? Commit, vent, okay? Or if it's mutual respect, a good apology. Okay, now I am going to teach you what a good apology is, mostly for the men in the room. Generally speaking, we're not good at this. All of us, when we were little kids, think back to when you were a little kid, you knock down your brother or your sister and your mom says, say sorry, and you go, sorry, and they go, okay, we're good. Right? How's that working for you as an adult? Okay. It doesn't work anymore. So a good apology has a couple of different parts. First of all, I'm sorry for that thing that happened. The reason why I'm sorry is because I know it made you feel like this. And that's what I'm actually sorry for. The fact that I made you feel disrespected, not heard. Okay? When I apologize to my wife, it includes things like validated, dedication. Does that make sense? The great thing about a good apology is you know you did it right, and they tell you 3 other things they felt. Okay? And when that happens, you just sit and you say, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I did that too. Okay? I had a really good friend, still a really good friend. We went on a double date years ago, and they lived in our neighborhood. We're sitting down at Blaze Pizza. We're just chatting along, and all of a sudden my buddy says something, and I was like, oh. And his wife just got up and walked away. And he didn't even notice, kept eating his pizza, and I look at my wife, and I look at him, and he's like, where'd she go? And I'm like, dude, she left. I can't say that. He's like, what? And then she came back like 2 moments later and said, we're leaving. which was really awkward because I was driving. So I looked at my wife and I'm like, boxes, and I grab napkins and I'm wiping up the table and she's boxing her food and she's outside, like, she's outside. So we go get in the car, and I wished at that time that my Bluetooth would have connected right away, so there was just music. I thought it would be awkward because it didn't for me to turn it on. But she sat as close to the window as she could possibly sit in the back seat, and he was on the other side. And it was like 15-20 minute drive to our house. And I pulled in the driveway and I almost had it in parked, but she had the door open and she was getting out, she was gone. And he looks at me and I look at him and I was like, meet me in the middle. This is what we used to do when we used to talk. He lived close enough that we would just walk towards each other's house, we'd meet in the middle. So we sat in the street for almost an hour talking about what happened, what he said, and I asked him, why would she feel these ways? And he's like, wow, gosh, put it that way. 5 years ago, this happened, she probably felt the exact same way, and 7 years ago, and 12 years ago, like, they've been married for 20 plus years, so we had a bunch of examples. So I said, this is what you need to say. I am sorry that I said this at dinner tonight because I know you felt. And I made him practice in the road like a little kid. And in the morning, I got a text from her. I don't know what you did, but thank you so much. Okay, a good apology when there's a clear problem restores respect, just like that. Okay, if it's a misunderstanding, regardless of whether it's respect or purpose, we can use a contrasting statement. So this is a super easy skill. I love this. My daughter, who at the time was like 7, whose older brother was 9, came upstairs and she's like, Dad, Isaac won't let me play with his DS, right? Little Nintendo handheld computer DS games. And I'm like, why wouldn't you let her play? I remember last time she played with it forever and then left it out. And when he wanted it, the battery was dead. So he just doesn't want that to happen again. So I said, go downstairs, and I made her practice. Go downstairs and use this contrasting statement. A contrasting statement is what I don't want followed by what I do want. Just like a black and white negative in old school photography, right? This is what I don't want, and then I print it, and it comes out the way I do want it. So go downstairs and say, Isaac, can I play with your DS? I promise that I won't keep it forever. When I'm done, I'll put it back on the charger. But I do just want to play with it for like a half an hour. And I'm listening, and then I hear her say, Dad, he said yes. So when there's a misunderstanding, we just contrast what we don't want with what we do want. Okay, so back in my old career, boss comes down the hall, and imagine if he says to somebody, hey, I need to see you Friday at 4:30 in my office. Okay, it's Wednesday at 11. What are you doing Thursday and Friday? You're freaking out, like you're asking other people. Does the boss want to see you on Friday? You're telling your wife, like, I don't know what I should do. Maybe I should get my resume done. You're just freaking out, right? And then you go in to see the boss on Friday, and the boss says, hey, I'm sorry I couldn't tell you on Wednesday. There was a meeting today that happened at 3 o'clock that ended at 4, and I couldn't tell you until 4:30 that you're going to be the new project manager with the title and a raise. Woo! Okay. So what if you come to somebody and say, hey, can I talk to you in my office Wednesday at 4:30? I don't want you to worry. It's going to be a really good conversation. I just can't tell you because the details won't be finished until Friday at 3 o'clock. Can you meet me at 4:30? Now, how do you feel on Thursday and Friday? Excited. Does that make sense? Yeah. So a contrasting statement. Whenever you anticipate a misunderstanding or it just pops up, just contrast. My intention was not for you to, what I wanted was, I don't want, I do want. You with me? Super easy. So there's a lot of, in my business, there's a lot of future pacing, okay? So you guys as realtors send me a contract, I call the borrower up, go over the numbers, lock in the rate, and then I say, from here, this is the process. I don't want you to feel like I've stopped talking to you every day because there's nothing to do between now and this step, which is in 3 days. I will call you in 3 days. Okay, if you need me, you can call me. I don't want you to think that we're done and you can't keep calling me. But I will check in at these particular check marks. Okay, makes sense. I don't want, I do want. Next one is don't fall for the fool's choice. This is just a great dialogue, conversational piece anyways. Either or. It's a limiting question. It's a limiting belief. I have to do either this or that. If you can use the word and, is there a way I can do this and that? Does it have to be either or? So this is just another thing to consider. This is kind of like the same thing that just goes along with the word but. Right? Anything you say, then but just erases everything you just said, right? I really love you, but sure wish you would do this different. Hey, I really love you, and can we talk about doing this different? Feel the difference? So it's just a fool's choice. Again, it's a way to present your brain the more complex problem to keep the blood flowing in your brain as opposed to arms and legs. So next skill, this is the one I want to make sure, Jeff, you understand. This will help you in your conversation. It's another acronym, so I know you'll love it. So CPR, content pattern relationship. So as we're formulating what it is we want to say, we can ask ourselves, is it a specific issue or a specific problem? Okay, what is the content? Okay, so this builder shows up late, right? That's a content. That's an issue, okay? Or is it a pattern of behavior that happens over and over and over? Well, the first time the builder didn't show up on time, that was an issue. But when you did it 20 times in a row, now there's a pattern. Okay, when my teenager the first time acts out in response to my question, that's an issue. When my teenager continues to act out over and over and over, every time I reach, now it's becoming a pattern. See the difference? Sometimes there's multiple content issues that can also display a pattern, right? So the builder's late, and the builder doesn't answer the phones, and the builder doesn't text back, and the builder doesn't reply to emails, and the clients say that the builder doesn't answer emails and text back. So there's multiple content issues, but all of those individual issues can also demonstrate a pattern, okay? And then ultimately the relationship. So this is a modality of how to speak, how to organize our thoughts in a clear. I want to talk about a couple different things because those couple different things demonstrate a couple different or one specific pattern of behavior. And the reason why that's important to me is because our relationship is suffering. I see our relationship deteriorating because of these patterns and issues. Okay. So my twins, did anybody have twins in here? Just curious. One of the fun things about having twins that I noticed was when they're little, friends can make one phone call and then they get to play with two friends. So it's really fun. We had a ton of girls at our house when our twins were little. There was one girl in particular that lived up the street who was a dancer. And at our house, we play basketball. I've got 3 kids taller than me, and 2 of them play college ball, and we love basketball. But basketball and dance, they both practice in the gym. They clearly can't practice at the same time. So 2 hours of basketball practice followed by 2 hours of dance, or vice versa. This one girl, she got left out of a lot of things. Okay, just because schedules, there was 4 hours where they couldn't be together, and it offended her. And mostly it offended her mom, because her mom was a dancer when she was a kid, and she got left out of a lot of things. Didn't want this to happen to her daughter. So she called me up and we scheduled a meeting. Well, she scheduled a meeting. So me and my daughter, her and her husband and her daughter. So I sat my daughter down, who was in 7th grade. She's like 13 or 14 years old. And I said, we're going to talk about content. We're going to talk about patterns. We're going to talk about relationships. Right when we walked in, I could tell the mom was not safe because she immediately went to violence and controlled and attacked and labeled me and my daughter. She actually called my daughter an effing B. Okay, 35-year-old woman, 13-year-old girl. Okay, I want to jump across the table and kill her husband. But my daughter said, I understand why you feel that way. Can I share with you a couple of things that might help? And she went through, there have been these specific times when your daughter didn't get invited to the birthday party or the thing on Friday or the movie on Saturday. Because I only invited the basketball team to this one. The birthday party, I just forgot. I'll admit it, I just forgot, right? She went through specific things. And then she said, I can see how that shows a pattern to you that I don't like your daughter. But that's not the case. I don't want you to think that I don't like her. I do want you to understand how my plans get planned after practice with all the basketball girls, and your daughter's not standing there in the circle, so she gets forgotten. I'm really sorry. And I can see how that has affected our relationship, and I'm here because I would like to fix it. And the night ended with cookies and milk and an invitation in the morning to do hair and makeup before they went to school. It was awesome because I didn't have to say one word. Content, pattern, relationship. Okay. So in our conversations, this might be something to consider. A lot of times you'll hear somebody say, we're on the topic and we get off the topic and they're like, oh, can we put a pin in that and come back later? Okay, that pin is because we just switched from content to pattern. Or we just switched from one content to a different content and another one and another one. So recognize oftentimes in our conversations that there could be multiple content or issues that need to be addressed individually because they're affecting the relationship. And or those multiple things are showing a display or a pattern of disrespect. I don't feel like you validate my time. I don't feel like you have any value in me. I feel like I'm just somebody else, just a number in your wheel. I don't like that. Our relationship is suffering because I feel like I'm just another person in your life that you can just use when you need and forget about when you don't. Okay. So hopefully something like this in your situation would be something to consider how to address that, because you could see at any moment what could happen. High stakes, strong emotions, opposing opinions, right? Safety could be violated or lost. Mutual purpose, mutual respect needs to be established, restored as we talk about content, pattern, and relationship. Okay. So one more skill in this section. I love this one. I think this would have helped this woman that I was just talking about quite a bit. It helps all of us. It's called Master My Story. When we see or hear something, we tell ourselves a story that makes us feel, and those feelings determine our actions, and it happens that way. Right? Everybody's been driving down the road and been cut off in traffic. Right? And everybody's pulled up next to somebody and giving them the angry fist. Okay. You see or hear something, you tell yourself a story that makes you feel, and then you act. Okay. But if you got cut off in traffic and you knew they were on their way to become a grandpa, they were hurrying to the hospital. Okay. I'm a 9-month-old grandpa, so I know exactly how exciting that is. So if you knew something different, you would feel differently. And in traffic, you'd be like, whoa, everybody slow down. This guy's got to go to the hospital. He's about to meet his granddaughter, right? You would let everybody go. You would act different. So same thing in this, we just ask ourselves a question. Okay, we separate the facts from the story. Okay, the buyer yelled. Well, did they yell? Like, was it actually yelling? Right? Like, maybe your dad was a drill sergeant. This was not yelling. You know what yelling is, right? Or maybe your mom was a nun. And this was yelling. Okay. But is it a fact or is it a story? So if we can separate the facts from the story, then we tell ourselves a better story, which makes our feelings more realistic, and then our actions fall in line accordingly. Does that make sense? So this is the path to action. So if we can just tell ourselves a better story, our actions will be more accurate. Okay, so separate the facts from the story. So a good question is, why would a reasonable, rational, decent person do this, right? Why would my buyer, who I've been working with for 2 months and been to lunch with twice and driven all around the valley and we've sung songs on our drives, now treat me like this? Like, why? Right? Separate the facts from the story by asking ourselves a question. Master my stories. Right? If this mother would have mastered her stories, it would have been a very, very different label that she put on my heart. So formulate. Any questions about this? We are exactly 40 minutes in, and now we're going to learn how to actually start talking.
Yeah.
Okay. And does this make sense?
That's good stuff. Yeah.
You with me? Okay. Any questions about all those acronyms? Okay. So last part, speak. The best predictor of your ability to get to dialogue is the amount of curiosity that you bring to the conversation. Any Ted Lasso fans in here? The dark scene curiosity. I just bring some curiosity, right? Like I don't know you, but I'm curious. Before I act, I'm gonna separate my facts from my story, right? I don't know that person. I'm gonna separate my facts from my story. Content, pattern, relationship. I'm gonna be curious before I speak. I'm gonna ask myself questions. Right? What do I want for myself? What do I want for others? What do I want for this relationship? Okay. So 2 different options here. This one's called state This is another acronym skill. So what we do versus how we do it. So when we're finally ready to talk, we recognize a crucial conversation, we watch for silence or violence, we ask ourselves what we want, we're considering, is it a content, is it a pattern, is it a relationship, if I master my story, we're doing all this kind of stuff. When we finally get ready to talk, what we're gonna do is share our facts, tell our story, and then ask them what path they're on to get to this place where we're currently at, okay? So I'm gonna share the facts because I'm gonna separate my facts from my story. Okay, here's the facts. You were late. Took you 3 days to reply. Okay, here's the facts. We've talked about this twice. Right, this has been the result. Both times I've asked you to do this, you have ended up in this particular place. Okay, these are the facts. The story I'm telling myself is that you don't value my contribution to this project. Right? I'm not feeling respect from you as a son towards me and the rules of my house. Okay, I have a 15-year-old, really good kid, comes home late for curfew. Hey man, this is the facts. You know curfew is 11 o'clock. Okay. What happened? I don't know what happened. Okay, then I'm going to encourage him to tell me his path, how he got there. I was late because I was waiting for you know, whoever's mom to come pick us up. And she had to drop off somebody else on her way, or she had to go pick up somebody else first and come and get us. And so I'm late because of this. Okay. Share your facts, tell your story, ask for their facts. The way you do it is you talk tentatively, so that encourages them to tell their story. Okay. If I say to my son, you're late for curfew, sick and tired of that, what happened? He doesn't want to talk to me. Okay, but I could use the exact same words. You're late for curfew. I'm getting really tired of this. I'm getting a little sick of it. What happened? Talking tentatively, encouraging him, will encourage him to tell his story. Do you see the difference? Same exact words, two different outcomes. So share your facts, tell your story, ask for them to do the same. Right? So the facts are, I didn't reply to you for 3 days, but if you remember when we first met, I told you that I would reply to you 5 days after. Right? It took me 3 days, which is actually 2 days faster than I told you. Oh, I had forgotten that. You did tell me that, oh yeah, I need to reset my expectations, or I need to ask you to reply to me sooner, or whatever. Okay. The other option is an acronym called AMP. So this one is great if that person is not speaking up. Okay, if you've used all your skills, this is it's not a last resort. This is great for teenage boys who you pick them up from school. How was your day? Good. What was good about it? Stuff. What stuff? Things. Well, which things in particular? All of them. But which one was your favorite? I don't know. Well, if you were to know, what would you tell me? Let me think. Oh my gosh. Okay, so ask, hey, can I talk to you about this? Hey, Mr. Builder, can we have a conversation about this? Mirror to confirm that you understand what it is they're saying. Okay. Paraphrase to acknowledge the story. And then prime when you're getting nowhere. So prime comes from the old analogy of the water pump. Everybody knows the water pump story out in the desert, where you're walking through the desert, you come to a water pump and there's a bucket of water on there. And it says, don't drink this, dump it in the well, right? Because it creates a vacuum and then you can pump water forever. But if you drink it, you're out of water and you can't get any of the water out of the well. So you prime the pump by dumping back into it what you have. So I can get my son to tell me about his day at school. When he says good, I say, what was good? He says stuff. I say, which stuff? He says things. I say, which ones? He says, all of them. And I say, one specific. Finally, he told me. I just continue to ask, mirror. Okay, this is a great, so I've been in sales for 27 years now. Great sales technique that I used to use. I used to sell people across from the desk from me. And they would come in, right? They'd be sitting in their chair doing one of these. So I would sit in my chair just like that. And then about 10 minutes in, I'd put my hand on the table. And about a minute later, he'd put his hand on the table. And then I would scoot up with both my hands on the table. And a couple minutes later, they'd scoot up with both. So you can mirror each other with your dialogue too. Okay? This is not a manipulation technique, because they'll know where your heart is. Right? What do I really want? Okay, what do I want for both of us? I just told you that what I would like for both of us is for you to find the perfect house, that I'm in it for you. Doesn't benefit me at all. It doesn't change my compensation, whatever the conversation is. Okay, but they'll recognize where my heart is if I'm doing this for the wrong reasons. But ask, mirror, paraphrase. Okay, so buddy, I want to know about your day and what I know thus far, that it was good, lots of stuff, several things. Your favorite was. Okay, I'm paraphrasing and I'm dumping it, priming it back into the well. Following me?
Mhm.
Any questions about those two? I'll stop here. Anybody online? Any questions?
Unmute yourself if you want to say something on Zoom.
Yeah, go ahead. I just have one more, the last one. After we've had the conversation, then what do we do? This is it. It's the last slide. Everybody good? It's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff. Hopefully there's a principle or two, a skill or two that you could walk out of here, and for the rest of your life, you're going to be using contrasting statements, right? You're going to master your stories forever. Whatever it might be, hopefully there's something here that you will do from here on out. Stay in dialogue, get better results. After we've had the conversation, who does what, by when, and how do we follow up? Now, you guys are awesome at this, by the way. I don't need it, but it's awesome, okay? Who, Ben, does what? Teaches Wednesday, the 28th at 11 o'clock at this address. Every other day, I get a message. Fantastic, it's fantastic. This is the perfect example. What sometimes happens is we have this great conversation. Everybody's feeling good, safety's been restored, mutual purpose and respect are there, everything is good, and then we don't talk about what we're going to do from here, right? So it would have been a waste for me to have talked to my borrowers when I was in Dallas, and to have reminded them and restored respect and reminded them and created our mutual purpose and made a new higher goal, and then to go out to lunch with them and then just leave without talking about, hey, next time you feel like I'm not doing what you need, what are we going to do? How are we going to handle that the next time it comes up? I'm going to call you every time we hit a specific milestone. But if it's not often enough for you, what are we going to do? Because what I don't want is for you to feel like I'm neglecting you like your last lender. What I do want is for this to be a great experience for you. I really do. Like, whether you ever do business with me again, you're moving to Arizona, so we probably won't. But whatever it is, this is what are we going to do? Yeah, you're right. We should have texted you. We should have texted you the day before we were feeling that way. We just waited a day and it built up, and we're sorry. You're right. We're sorry. No, this is not right or wrong. This is just who will do what by when, and how are we going to follow up to make sure that this crucial conversation that went so well stays like that, so that the safety that exists between us will continue to be there. That's it. One last quote. I think I have one last quote is all. Maybe I don't. So we go to silence because we dread crucial conversations. We go to violence because we are unskilled at holding crucial conversations. So the same way that Jeff started this, personal development, skill building, that's what this is all about. So hopefully there's a skill or two that will help you in your conversations.
Awesome. Wow. Anybody out there have any questions? Anybody here have any questions, comments?
Can you just come sit on my shoulder all the time?
I get that. Can you come and talk to my teenager? Yes, I can. So honestly, I have a friend, her name's Crystal. She's a realtor. I've never done a deal with her, but we live in the same neighborhood. We've known each other forever. We've tried to do deals together. We just haven't. She calls me up like once a month. Hey, I've got a buyer who's got this problem. And, hey, I've got a seller. They're having this issue, and I will walk her through stuff literally once a month. So call me. Like, I'm happy to help. You had a question or hand raised?
Yeah, one thing we talk a lot about in our office here is talking points. And part of our education every week is when a topic comes up in the buyer or seller, we have things to draw on, and we're always continuing education for talking points. So you being a lender, I'm just kind of curious how you would answer questions versus how I would.
Mhm.
Because I've got, the quiver full of.
Yeah.
Of things, like, for example, somebody says, I really want to buy a house right now, but I'm just gonna wait till rates come back down. And I know what I pull out, because it's super simple facts, and it's a no-brainer to me.
Right,
And you have those same facts, but how would you
yeah,
use some of this
yeah,
in a conversation to get them to understand and see a
Sure.
better point of view?
that's a great question. Yeah, that's a great question. So I would just point out the first thing coming from these skills is be curious. Because you and I both assume that we understand exactly what they're asking, why they're asking it, and therefore, boom, here's the answer, right?
Yeah.
So ask a couple different questions, ask a couple clarifying questions, repeat back to them what it is that they have said to make sure that you actually understand it. Because maybe you're gonna go straight to rent versus own, maybe you're gonna go straight towards appreciation now, and when rates go down, you can refi and you're gonna buy the same house for $30,000 less than it's gonna cost next year, and your payment is gonna be $500 less than somebody who buys it next year for $30,000 more. Those are the answers,
Right.
but just to make sure, you want to ask some questions. You want to, from a sales perspective now, you want to uncover their pain so that you can fix their pain, right? So if they just ask a question, it's just a question, but if you ask why, then they're going to tell you all about their pain, right? So now you're not answering a question, you're fixing pain. Does that help?
Yeah.
Solving a specific problem.
Yeah, so my answers are gonna be the same as yours, they really are, right? Your
Right.
experience, I'm experienced, maybe a newer lender, newer realtor gonna not know the answer. But before you tell the answer, so another sales tactic is don't give any information until you know, like, keep the power. Okay, what does the client expect from you? They expect you to convince them to buy a house right now. Why? Because you make money off of selling houses.
Salesperson.
Does that make sense? That's what they expect. So, hey, I think we're just gonna wait. Like, maybe start with empathy. Right? Maybe show them empathy first. Maybe ask them a follow-up question. Validate. Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. I can see where you're coming from. Yeah, from your life experiences, I can totally appreciate how that would be a concern. Yeah, like that makes a lot of sense. Could I share a couple other thoughts with you you may not have considered? No. Okay, well, in 6 months when you're ready, I'll be ready to help you. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Oh, yeah, I'll need to sell the house in 6 months.
yeah,
Now too.
does that make sense? Or
Yeah.
you've shown them empathy, you've been curious, you've asked questions, you're sympathizing with them. I can see where you're coming from. Could I share a couple of things? Ask, can I share a couple of things with you? Okay, we're not gonna do anything. Let me just share. Those would be my suggestions.
No, that's good. So I'm just thinking purposefully on a response, because I'm like you, it's like, I know why they should buy now,
Yeah.
but that's me. Right? And I often tell more than I ask.
Yep.
I don't ask them questions. And by asking questions, getting really to the root of why they feel that way. I would probably just confuse them even more if I told them all the reasons why they should buy. It's like, oh, you don't understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So that's a big takeaway from this for me is often we're reactive. We're in the middle of a conversation and just flows. We think it's flowing because we know what to say. But if we slow down, and I'll share these slides with you guys too. Is that okay?
Yeah, you bet.
Having that and saying, well, let me just pause for a minute, think of crib or think of my acronym, think of this thing, and then be able to be a little bit more purposeful is going to be, I think, super helpful. Would you agree? In a lot of
I'm really
conversations.
paying attention to body language, because you can be thinking you're going with the flow and you're not paying attention to,
Yeah.
they just totally went dead on you.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you've been really excited about what you were talking about, you said one thing and then all of a sudden it's just like.
Yeah.
Hey, I've had that happen.
Yeah, silence has a look, and I will point this out on Saturday in this dating class that I did. Somebody raised their hand and they said, hey, I'm really, really sarcastic. Like, I just sarcastic.
Was that sarcasm?
Yeah. And they said, how does sarcasm fit into that? And I was like, it's actually both. Sarcasm is a form of withdrawing from a conversation, right? It's also a form of controlling the conversation. I don't want to talk about this, so I'm just going to go to sarcasm. And then somebody else goes, is humor the same? Because I try to be funny all the time. Yes. So watch for, in addition to body language.
This is really good because I have 2 clients right now,
Mhm.
husband and wife. She loves this house, he loves this house. We went under contract on this house because this house wasn't getting back to us for 4 days.
Mhm.
They just got back to us with the counter
Mhm.
and he will only answer, he wants this house,
Right.
she wants this house. He will only answer back with her with sarcasm. And she says, I can't get a straight answer with him, he's just answering me with sarcasm.
There you go. He's just not safe.
Well, I know he
Yeah.
wants this house and he
Yeah.
doesn't wanna hurt her.
Right.
Yeah, it's that, but I didn't understand this whole sarcasm
Yeah.
thing, right? I was like,
He can afford to buy both.
I know.
I know.
I know.
But what does he really want? One for both of them?
You have yours on mine. Like your buddy.
No, but that's a good catch. Body language, sarcasm, humor, they all fit into silence or violence.
Nice.
Other talking points in particular?
That's a good.
No, not specific.
Good question.
Yeah, I just know what
Yeah.
I do is I spew out facts, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah, you know, don't spray, like,
Yeah.
don't spray, right? Make sure you aim. Right, so the only way you can aim is if you ask a question.
Sometimes I'll ask a question with, with that talking point logic.
Yeah.
To get them to think, but I'm just kind of curious, like, for example, well, what if interest rates never do go down?
Yeah.
Maybe this is the lowest they're gonna be in 5 years.
Yeah.
If you buy now, that's a good thing,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
If you don't buy it, it'd be a bad thing.
Yeah. You could, like, questions I've asked are, when do you think rates are gonna go down?
Mhm.
Right, well, I think they're gonna go down in 1 year, but what if we did a 1 year buy down, right? I think they're gonna go down in 2 years, what if we did a 2-1 buy down? I don't think they're ever gonna go down. Well, then why would you wait till next year? Maybe all I need to show you is that right now in Utah, compared to the national conversation, home values are continuing to go up, right? Specifically northern Utah. So a lot of people get their information from a national perspective,
Mhm.
which is one conversation, but the local conversation. Utah is #1 in economy, #1 in job growth. You can go on and on and on with how strong Utah is right now, and it's a great place to buy. It's a great place to buy, right? Forbes magazine just last week, #1 place in the country to live, Utah.
Orbis,
What's that?
is that Orbis?
Yeah,
Or,
yeah,
yeah. No, that'd be a good read, huh?
Yeah.
Sharing with somebody else's stats and.
yeah, for sure. For sure.
Super cool. QR code on there if you want to connect with Ben. Got his information on there. And don't forget, you agents in Utah that want to receive CE credit, email and your license number in the chat. So thanks, Ben. That was
Yeah.
really awesome.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So actually, I put a couple other slides in here for me. A lot of you already have subscribed to get notifications about future trains that we have coming up. You can see on here, we're taking the next 2 weeks off. We got the holiday coming up, and then a lot of us are going to be out of town for an event in July as well. But then we'll pick it back up middle part of July. Yeah, I remind them a lot too. Too much. I might tone that down a little bit, but that QR code will just take you to the landing page that'll show some of our future trainings that are coming up. And there's a subscribe button on there if you haven't already done that. And that's just showing a couple other classes and the same QR code, I think, Ashley. So anyway, appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in on Zoom. Great content, and thanks, Ben.
Yeah,
Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Okay, we're gonna let you guys go on Zoom. We're gonna stick around here and network a little bit, but I appreciate you tuning in, and maybe we'll see you on a future training. Okay. See you guys. I'm gonna log out now.
Oh, yes, they're on the perfect spot.
See you, Kathy. Hi, Colin. Oops.
Yeah, that's a good